right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Spotlight on History. I'm Helen Dellinger, curator of the Manassas Museum. Once again, we are out and about in Manassas. There's so much history in this area that I want to share with you, and that means going on location, as it were. So today, I'm at one of our historic sites, and I want you to try and guess which one just by what you see behind me. So I'm going to give you one of my fun hints. This building has a cornerstone, and my fabulous videographer Rachel is going to zoom in on that. Now, this cornerstone, RP 1892, was laid 8 years after another famous cornerstone, the one for the Statue of Liberty in New York. So there's the cornerstone. So you guys may be once again thinking, those hints are so obscure, I really don't get what she's going for. So we'll pan out a little bit down the back of this home, and that's kind of another hint at this home. This structure was built by a beer baron from Alexandria and was used by his family as a summer residence. So there's another hint. So okay, for those of you that guessed Annaburg Manor, then you are correct.
Okay.
So Annaburg, if you all guessed that, that's our newest historic property, and we acquired it last year from Novant Health Systems. This house was built by Robert Portner, a very wealthy beer baron who lived in Alexandria, and this is what he looked like. This is a copy of a photo. So there's Mr. Portner. Portner made his fortune selling his own brand of beer and eventually became a millionaire at a time when few people attained such status. So that's more common today, but not back then. The Portners, he was married, and he and his wife Anna used this home only in the summer, and they came here regularly with their 13 children, 13 kids. Now remember that Manassas at that time was still a very small and rural community, so this home with its thousands of acres of land was kind of a source of local fascination. There was really no other building in the area that compared with this house, and so people were really fascinated by it. So not only did Portner own this home, he also owned the land that includes the nearby shopping center where Nathan's Ice Cream is, for those of you all that are familiar with that. Liberia and all the land there, farmland out towards Yorkshire, and most of the subdivision that's grown up around Annaburg right here. On that land, he established hunting parks, a large pond that people used for ice skating in the wintertime, and beautiful gardens that local residents were welcome to walk through, and a lot of people recall strolling through them on Sundays after church. And finally, his home had air conditioning. So think of that, that's in the 1890s, and that was a version of air conditioning that Portner himself patented. So here's an article from the 1950 Journal of the Patent Office Society that shows the patent of the Portner air conditioning system. And he kind of modeled it after his refrigerated train cars that were able to transport his beer from one place to another. Now here is a copy of the Portner family and their children. You can kind of see that's not all 13 of them, but that's most of them. We have several original images of the family in our collection. I didn't bring them out today, we just brought copies. But this one is my favorite because it kind of shows them as a family. So that's kind of fun. Now, I'd like to share an image of the house as it looked when the Portners were in residence. So this is an actual photo that we've got. Get this here off the table. So here's the photo. The house itself was constructed of beautiful red stone and had flanking side porches, and you can kind of see hints of them there. And it also had a slate roof. The porches are gone now. They were torn off when the hospital turned this home into a nursing facility. The stone itself was painted white at some point, which is why the home looks white today. A lot of people assume that that was the color, but that's not the case. The original color was red. The scaffolding that you've seen behind me in some of this video is because we're taking off the roof that's there now and replacing it with period-appropriate slate. Now I want to show this big picture of the home when Annaburg was turned into a hospital. So there's Annaburg right there in the center, and you can see these flanking wings here. So you can kind of see it looks tiny compared to the residential areas of the hospital. Those were removed after the facility closed. I believe it was in the 1990s. And so the house today looks very much like what Robert Portner would remember, again, with the flanking porches gone. The plan for the city, as some of you may already know, because we have been talking about this, is to get the house cleaned up on the outside. We're going to, as I said, do the roof work, and we're going to do some painting. And then the grounds are going to be opened up for people to wander about and enjoy. But we ask people to, if you do come over here, I can see somebody walking their dog right now. Please be mindful of the work zone and respect all the construction fencing and the signs. Now, for today's video, I did want to show two things in our collection that relate to the Portners. We have quite a few, and I'm going to share two of them with you today. One of them is this beer bottle with the original Portner label still attached. We have lots of beer bottles in our collection, but this is the only one that has its original label still on it. Portner did brew many different types of beer, and there actually two of his great-granddaughters have backed into his recipe. They were able to figure out his beer by looking at his ledgers of what he bought for the beer, and then talking to local brewers to say, how would this go together, these ingredients, to make beer? And so they do brew them. We've hosted them at the museum before, and their product is actually pretty good. So I don't think they do all of his examples, but they do some of them. So that's kind of a fun thing, that the Portner brew is still available today. You have to go to Alexandria to get it. The other piece that I want to share with you is this mold. We actually have two molds in the collection. Now this might be a little bit difficult to make out. These molds, these are rubber, and these were used, you can maybe hopefully see the little white parts in the center and how it looks different. These molds were used when Annaburg was built between 1892 and 1894 to create the plaster finished pieces that you see inside. We have two of these molds. This is just one example. And so they would have poured wet plaster down in here, let it harden, and then peel that out and affix it to the ceiling or the wall or whatever it was they were trying to do. So that's kind of neat that was used in the construction of the house. We had wanted to share details with you in person, but we can't go inside because it's not safe to be in the building. Perhaps a future Spotlight on History we can do that. So that's all I have for today for Spotlight on History. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. As always, please leave your comments on the page and I'll be happy to respond. And I'm still looking for that first special request for a program. Send that my way and I'll try and make that happen for you. So I'm Helen Dellinger, and I'll see you next week when we will talk about some of the pieces in our public safety collection.